Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to another disc discussion. Today we're looking at things where one of them is not like the other. This is inconsistent packaging art, particularly when it comes to the spine art.
It's morphin' time!
If you have not checked out the previous disc discussion, it was on consistent packaging art, such as Gundam. This one's about inconsistent packaging art, such as Bubblegum Crisis, which we'll get into in a bit, because this don't look like it all go together, but this does. So if you're interested in seeing how consistent packaging works out, check out that video, but otherwise, let's continue into madness. So I think it goes without saying that I love Discotek Media's Blu-ray releases. I've talked about them a lot on this channel, and I just praised their Lupin releases, especially in the packaging department. However, they're not perfect. Here is Medabots, one of my favorite anime series. Medabots here presented its English dub. We got the first season, which is the first half of the first series, the second season, and then Medabots, the third season, or Medabots Spirits. This is the English dub on standard definition, Blu-ray, which means it's a Blu-ray disc. One disc has 26 episodes on it, or 39 in the season 3 set. They aren't in the correct order for the Japanese release, but they are in the air date order, which may be just a way that the licensing worked out. I don't know how that worked out. But the big thing here I want to say is that there's nothing wrong with these releases. They're fantastic if you want to own Medabots on home video nowadays. This is the way to do it. It's the entire thing. We never got Spirits from ADV, so this is amazing. However, if you are a person who likes consistency on a shelf, this may bug you. So here we got Medabots Season 1. We've got a nice picture of Medabi up at the top. If my camera could focus on it. Let's get everything else out of the way. So we've got Medabi, we got the Medabots logo. It says the complete first season, first being written out. You then put the second volume up, and it's a picture of Ikki, the one from the first cover, actually. You got a picture of Ikki, and it says Medabots, the complete second season with the number 2, if you can see that there. This isn't very consistent. Okay, now, I have 2 volume sets that just don't match each other. It happens. So Medabots Season 3 matches Season 2 almost perfectly, to the point of using the same picture of Ikki, the same positioning of the logo, and the use of the number 3. So again, I love these releases and I love this company, but guys, you're setting off my shelf OCD right here with this. Because legitimately speaking, the fact that these two match perfectly and then this one doesn't, even though these were the first two were released closer together than the third one was, I wish there was a way to get another slipcover where this is all just, I don't even care if we're using the same picture of Ikki, just the consistency is slightly off, and it bugs me. Now, what about a franchise currently ongoing, having new movies released every couple years? How do those releases turn out? Well, I gotta say, you know, I'm not going to be throwing any shade here, but Fast and the Furious' steelbooks are a little weird. First of all, let's talk about how old steelbooks have been going, especially in terms of Fast and the Furious. Fast 5 came out a while ago. And as you can see, even though this is a Blu-ray and DVD digital code steelbook, this is the same size as a DVD steelbook. It is that taller, more, you know, taller version. Fast and the Furious 6, I mean, we're not even talking about titles Fast and the Furious 9 consistency. It's a Blu-ray, it's in the actual, you know, Blu-ray sized case, as you can see there. It doesn't really match, but, you know, I can imagine if you had steelbooks for the first 4, and then 6 comes along. I don't know about 7, because we don't have a 7 steelbook, we have a box set of the first 7. But then you get to 8, and Fate of the Furious here. Ooh, look at that. You got the 8 there, so you know what order these go in, because, oh my god, this franchise and its titles. This is awesome, and on the back it even has Dom's Charger with a giant 8. And then, hey, they kept that going with F9, which just came out this year. So you see the 9 Charger and the 9 on the spine. So, what's the problem? Well, at some point they decided to just start slapping the numbers on the side, which would be cool. I actually kind of dig it. The other problem is I've noticed that they put out a 20th anniversary Steelbook Blu-ray 4K of the original film, and it doesn't have a 1 on it. So I don't really know what's going on here. This is a very confusing thing. They sort of just seem to do whatever they want, and it just changes up. I think if you put the numbers on there, that's great. Why didn't you do that from the start? And from what I understand, the first 7 were not re-released in the similar style to this, from what I could find online. It's a little bit of a confusing mess, but this is the nature of a film series as it's going on for 20 years. Now what's interesting here is the CW Seed animated series, because there's a little inconsistencies here and there. These were series that were initially made to tie into the Arrowverse, such as Vixen here. As you can see, TV Green Arrow and Flash are on the cover. And guess what? She is in that same slide-out slipcover and looks like a TV show. Alright, the next one is Freedom Fighters The Ray. Now this is supposed to tie into the Arrowverse, specifically the Crisis on Earth X crossover, but the continuity is a little weird, and I'm not exactly sure if it lines up, and it's actually not packaged like the TV shows. It is in a slipcover. So maybe it's not supposed to be in continuity, because here's Constantine City of Demons, which was said by producers, despite it being a CW Seed show, and then later compiled. These are all web shows, basically, if no one knows what CW Seed is. It's a streaming service, it's free, they have sometimes original content. I think they stopped doing it, but they put out these short animated series where they're like 5-minute episodes, and then they compile them as these movies. Anyways, Constantine City of Demons was meant to be in the same continuity as Justice League Dark, and as you can see, it lines up with that. So it's supposed to be in the animated movie universe, and it even has an embossed cover like Justice League Dark has. And then continuing forward, the Deathstroke Knights and Dragons movie, which was also CW Seed series, definitely has no connections to the Arrowverse, and it is packaged in a similar DC animated movie. So it's kind of funny because I do keep the Ray with the CW DC shows, but it doesn't have exactly the same packaging, and having that character art on the side really stands out, especially when you throw in some of the DC TV stuff there. It just looks out of place. Vixen looks right in line, but the Ray looks a little out of place. Let's talk DC Universe animated movies. So what's interesting is that these have had some different branding over the years. DC Universe Animated Original Movie was one of the first one, then they had DC Comics Premiere Movie. They've been around for like 14 years at this point. So originally they were under the Warner Premiere label, and then eventually changed over to Warner Home Video proper. So some of the earlier releases look kind of like this. Mostly just logo. A lot of them embossed, but mostly just logo, that sort of thing. When they started doing the interconnected continuity, sort of based on the New 52 comics, things like Justice League vs. Teen Titans and Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, they started adding character portraits. What's interesting here is that the character portraits actually extended to other DC animated movies that weren't in that continuity, like Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders, great return to the Adam West Batman. So you kind of have like this nice thing of it's a direct-to-video DC movie. It's got that branding. Now, this wasn't a universal thing. Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles didn't have a character portrait. It also had to add the Nickelodeon logo, so I kind of get that. And any of the steelbooks that came out in this era didn't have the character portraits on the side. But hey, steelbooks though, they look pretty sometimes. This one in particular. So you know, you have kind of like, again, sort of like with the DCEU steelbooks, they kind of go together. Now, in an effort to kind of, you know, keep things going, there was, you know, after this era ended with Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, they wanted to show that era was done. So like the Batman Death in the Family interactive movie doesn't have a character branding. Like I already mentioned, Deathstroke Knights and Dragons didn't have the character branding. It's showing a new era. But that new era of DC animated movies truly began with Superman, Man of Tomorrow. And I was saying I get all these movies on 4K because I'd been kind of hit or miss on the others. But I was like, I'm going all 4K on this new line. And guess what happened? Oh, look, it's my old friend Spine Art. So Spine Art, again, as we've already discussed, will get me to buy things I wouldn't normally buy. But Spine Art here is really cool. And so it started here, and then Batman Soul of the Dragon was next. And look at that. Oh, hey, it's got Wonder Woman on it, even though it's a Batman movie. But it's got a D. And then we got Justice Society World War II. And then, hey, there's the first half of the C. So it's going to spell like DC Universe or something. And then it all went to crap, I guess, because we get to Batman The Long Halloween, Part 1 and 2. Why did I buy these on Steelbooks if I was going for the Spine Art? Well, these are Blu-ray only. They said the 4K editions of these movies would come later in a combo pack, which has been confirmed for next year. So I figured, okay, when they release it like that, then it'll be that part of the mural, because the Blu-ray and the 4K murals don't line up. So when these were released on Blu-ray, they did have the Spine Art. I've checked them out in stores. There is Spine Art. Guess what, though? That's it. Injustice doesn't have spine art from what I've seen. Catwoman Hunted, also in its solicitation pictures, does not show any spine art. So this thing got to D, C, and half of U, and then just was done. And I know that Warner Brothers Home Video changed over to Studio Distribution Services, which is a joint Warner Universal, like, merged home video effort. And I don't know if that's the reason why they just stopped the spine art, but it kind of bugs me, because we didn't even, you know, if they'd stopped at D, C, would have been fine. I don't know why they would start this and then drop it so suddenly, but it kind of bums me out. It really does. Mostly because now I don't want to keep these together and I'm going to split them up, and then it's like, oh, hey, here's this Batman movie with Wonder Woman on the side. I mean, at least if it was like Superman was here, Batman was here, you know, Wonder Woman was here because she's in Justice Society. But, you know, what can you do? That's... Dang, I hate when spine art doesn't get finished. Let's talk about another show that I completely neglected when talking about volumes versus complete sets, and that would be Disney's Gargoyles. Season 1 was released in 2004. Yeah, see, I like how Buena Vista Entertainment would do this, where they put the little dates in the corner. Camera was not focusing on that, but anyways. Season 1, 2004, alright. And then we got Season 2, Volume 1, which was released in 2005. Sweet! What about Season 2, Volume 2? When did this come out? 2014. 9 years later. And in that meantime, about a year before this came out, there was a Disney Movie Club exclusive version. Then this version came out at Walmart, and then it was eventually a wide release. But hey, despite all that weird multi-year gaps, you know, 9 years between Season 1, Volume 1 and Season 1, Volume 2, we certainly got 3 things that don't look like they match together. The following segment might upset those that love consistent branding on packaging. Let's talk about Young Justice, one of my favorite shows ever. One that came back from the dead. Sometimes as a zombie and sometimes really great, but it's back, and let's talk about its Blu-rays. Now, these Blu-rays were Warner Archive releases. When we're talking about complete series versus box sets, if I had my DVDs on me, I certainly would have brought this out, because Young Justice Season 1 was released across 4 volumes for some reason, Season 2 across 2 volumes, Season 3 got a complete set. But let's talk about this. So this is Warner Archive, one company, putting this out. We got Young Justice Season 1, marked just as Young Justice, because, hey, this was released after Season 2 existed. Season 2 was retitled Young Justice Invasion. So very nice, it does say Young Justice Invasion. As you can see, very consistent, very nice looking. Then we have Young Justice Outsiders Season 3. I understand the Season 3 branding. That made sense because the DVD edition used the same cover, and the DVD was retail and the Blu-ray was Warner Archive, which is probably just as much sense as made as Bandai's Figuarts releases being retail or P-Bandai or whatever. And yeah, you know, it's a nice set. It's got everything in it. Really cool. It's got behind-the-scenes featurettes. I'm about to just... Oh boy. Alright, so where do I begin? First of all, the Young Justice logo's in the same place as Invasion. Great. Why does this say the complete 3rd season instead of Outsiders? That's it. I don't mind the logo here, because I know the Warner Brothers logo got updated. I know that the DC logo started getting added after these were existed. That's not my problem, because I know there is a significant, like, 7-year gap between Season 2 and 3. 7 year? It was like 7 years in the showtime. Anyways, between releases, there was at least 3 or 4 or 5 years at this point. I understand why Season 2 and Season 3 don't have the same company logos. I don't understand why it doesn't just say Young Justice Outsiders and says the complete 3rd season, when this doesn't say... If this said complete 1st season, if this said Young Justice Invasion, the complete 2nd season, I wouldn't have a problem. But the fact that it says complete 3rd season here instead of Outsiders bugs me. And I'm wondering if Phantoms will be the same problem, or if it'll go back to this. If Phantoms matches this, it will still be annoying, but a little less annoying. If Phantoms matches this, I'm printing a new cover for Outsiders. Alright folks, we've reached a new stage of this discussion. The one I've been dreading because of how much of a nightmare it is. The multi-studio franchise releases. And I think we all know this from anime, that sometimes one season is released by one company and the next season's another, or you have Bubblegum Crisis. And a crisis indeed. First up, let's discuss, what is Bubblegum Crisis? It is a cyberpunk anime series taking place in the future where humans and AI robots are living together. Robots typically do jobs, but then some start berserking, going insane. If you've seen Kamen Rider 01, you've seen the premise of Bubblegum Crisis. So, this is a franchise that has had all kinds of legal trouble, a bunch of history I'm not going to go into. There's a nice video on YouTube if you look it up. This series is nuts. Here is the thing I'm going to tell you guys. It's not got a consistent release. So let's talk about the original timeline of Bubblegum Crisis, which, alright, first up, Animigo Entertainment put out this awesome high-definition dystopia release of the original Bubblegum Crisis OVA. If you haven't checked this out, it's actually really great. I think it's on Retro Crush or Tubi. This was released by Animigo. They did a crowdfunding campaign to make it happen, and this is the standard release after that. It was also released on DVD. Animigo also released Bubblegum Crash, released as the Total Crash Collection, and this was a sort of sequel by a different company that sort of finished up the Bubblegum Crisis saga. And then Animigo also released the 80 Police Files OVA prequel series. When you got all this, it looks okay. I think Crash and 80 Police work together. Now, Animigo also released the very horrifying Parasite Dolls OVA I recommend to nobody. And this thing, you know, it's supposed to be, I think, a prequel to the other timeline, the Tokyo 2040 timeline. But, you know, it sort of goes together, I guess. And then, yeah, you get to Tokyo 2040. Probably the better-known anime because of ADV's release of it and them putting the promo for Bubblegum Crisis, which is a very adult anime series, on DVDs for Reboot and Sonic the Hedgehog. ADV was a wild beast. Anyways, this is the Funimation DVD release of Bubblegum Crisis. I think it's the second release of it. And as you can see, it goes here, and it's, you know, it's branded in the anime classic style that Funimation does. And then lastly, 80 Police to Protect and Serve, the sort of sequel series to Tokyo 40, which is, it's in the same universe. I apologize to the camera I just hit with this. This was released on a single disc, standard definition Blu-ray by Nozomi Entertainment. Previously was released on DVD by ADV. So, what do we got? 2 Blu-rays, 4 DVDs. None of this looks like it goes together. In addition to the problem of the Bubblegum Crisis franchise having things like 80 Police not even branded with Bubblegum Crisis, and basically these have no real order to go in because these are all made by different studios, this just looks like a mess. This doesn't look like a complete collection of anything. A better example of multi-studio releases coming together and making something looking sort of okay would be the Casshern franchise. This was Funimation, this was frickin' DreamWorks, this was Discotech, and this was Sentai Filmworks, but hey, you put those together, and honestly, they kind of go together, at least a little bit. But this is a nightmare for consistency. There is, and even with Animigo releasing 4/6 of Bubblegum Crisis, they don't look like they go together. They just look like they're from completely different things altogether. Now let's talk about something that's supposed to look like it goes together, and absolutely doesn't. The Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh boy. Alright, let's talk quick things. First of all, most of the movies are released by Disney, starting with Avengers. Earlier films were released by Paramount, and I have most of those in storage. A lot of things happen when you move things, but, you know, once Disney kind of took control, you get a little bit of consistency. There's Age of Ultron, here's Doctor Strange, you know, look at that. Nice slipcovers, character art here, logo, Blu-ray format. And even when they stop, you know, doing Blu-ray 3D as the fancy edition, there's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, here's Thor Ragnarok. You know what? Those all go together. You know, that's multi-year releases. They look like they go together. And hey, Incredible Hulk got re-released in this Marvel Studios Phase 1 branding, and hey, you know what? Outside of the Phase 1 there, it's pretty dang consistent. I actually like that. That's pretty cool. So let's continue forward. Here's Black Widow. Alright, I get 4K has these new rounded edges, you know, normally. Alright, still the same kind of packaging. Oh, what other 4Ks do I have that aren't steelbooks? Oh, I got Spider-Man Homecoming. That's part of the MCU, right? The hell? So Sony releases the Spider-Man movies. Sony owns the Spider-Man movies. Their collaboration with Marvel Studios is on a creative front, and I think, you know, Disney gets a cut of the money, it's part of the deal. But they are not released on home video by Disney. They are released by Sony. So, while this has format, logo, character, this has studio, character, logo, format. It doesn't match whatsoever. So if you're collecting the MCU strictly in slipcovers, your Spider-Man movies are going to stick out. I like that they re-released, because even though Incredible Hulk is still owned by Universal, and the Paramount movies were released in styles like this too, it looks like it goes together. Spider-Man, by having the character at the top, not the bottom, completely throws it off. But let's get the normal Blu-rays out of the way. Let's talk steelbooks. I mix and match my MCU movies. I know, I'm a weirdo. It just happens. Like, here's Ant-Man and the Wasp, okay? Very nice. You know, you got logo, Marvel Studios. And hey, if you throw in, let's throw in a movie I like, you know, it doesn't blend too badly with the other MCU movies. Doesn't have the character portraits, but it's a steelbook. It looks a little different. All right, no big deal. Here's a re-released steelbook for Ant-Man when it came out on 4K. So you can see Ant-Man, Ant-Man the Wasp. They go together, you know. Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity. By the way, this Endgame artwork is so bad. There's so much horrible Photoshop on this. Anyways, you know, looks pretty nice. And then let's get Spider-Man Homecoming in here. Or, Spider-Man Far From Home on steelbook. Hey! Outside of lacking the Marvel Studios branding and having the Sony logo down here instead of the Ultra HD logo, and yes, we will not talk about how Ant-Man and the Wasp had his sideways. Hey, actually, you know what? Sony's steelbooks sort of line up. So if you put all of this crazy mismatched stuff together, I know it's not in the right order, don't worry about it. Let's just get this out of the way. You know what? All those look consistent. Let's just say, you know, Spider-Man gets thrown in here, and then there's that. Boy, if they re-release Homecoming on steelbook, I might pick it up, because if this steelbook looks like this on the spine, that'd be better than that. Also, I probably should have just been buying the MCU movies on steelbook from the beginning, but let's not talk about that. There's too many to backtrack now. Now, it seems like with multiple studios involved, you're never going to have true consistency. But sometimes it works out. For example, Hellboy. This was released by Sony. Boop. Here is Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, released by Universal. Boop. Here is the Hellboy animated movies, released by Starz and Lionsgate. And here is the Hellboy 2019 movie on steelbook, released by Lionsgate. You know what? I gotta say, this is just throwing it out there. Despite the fact that these, you know, don't have consistent branding, and, you know, I don't know what the normal Blu-ray looks of Hellboy, but character, no character, character, no character. Slipcase, steelbook. No slipcase, no slipcase. I mean, there was a slipcase on some of these before. Sometimes I'm slow to the game. Ultra HD, Ultra HD. Ultra HD, nothing. I don't know. For me, yeah, every Hellboy movie is owned by a different studio. I mean, case in point, Sony, Universal, Starz, Lionsgate. But, you know what? It kind of worked out. And, you know, when you talk about kind of working out, I don't think anything gets better than Arrow Video's RoboCop Steelbook, Shout Factory's RoboCop 2 Blu-ray minus its slipcover, and Shout Factory's RoboCop 3 Blu-ray with its slipcover. And so, you know, the 3 didn't sell well when I got a slipcover, buying it super late. But look at this right here. We got logo, slightly bigger, no character, character, MGM, Blu-ray. Yay! It actually looks like it goes together, despite that being two different studios. So sometimes it works out, and sometimes I don't even know if consistency is that big of a deal. But when companies don't look like they're trying, that's usually when I bring it up. But hey, sometimes it just works out. So when it comes down to it, most Blu-ray DVD shelves are probably a chaotic mess like mine. Just so many different companies, different things. I mostly try to do alphabetical order. I put my mecha stuff up front. I don't know, it's wherever it fits, really. And you have, you know, Blu-rays mixed with DVDs. Sure, it might look a little bit better if you take all the DVDs out, but then they have their own shelf, and then it's like, okay, well, why is half the Casshern franchise over on this thing? So it's always an issue, because everything isn't available in the same format. So consistency is nice because it makes, you know, it look a little less chaotic. As you can kind of tell, these are the same company. They kind of look like they go together, but this is supposed to be one franchise, and it doesn't look like it is. This does. You can definitely tell Cowboy Bebop is together. They say Cowboy Bebop on them. But yeah, this mess is a mess. You also might be wondering if I would rebuy stuff for shelf consistency. Yes, absolutely. I got a promo code and rebought the DVD editions I had of the original Gundam and its movies on Blu-ray, just so it has a nice little consistent thing. Except for the Turn A movies, G-Savior, and Gundam Evolve, because they have been DVD only thus far. And with everything as disparate as it is, you know, Medabots still looks like it goes together, even if it doesn't exactly match. So I'm actually pretty happy with that, because you can look at it and go, oh hey, there's the Medabots section. As opposed to some others where you're like, wait, is that the same, does that Spider-Man go with the MCU, or does that Spider-Man go with, you know, the other Spider-Man? So I like when it's mostly consistent. And mostly consistent is most of what I ask for, because when you can look at a group of things and say, oh hey, that's the DCEU, that's Back to the Future, that's Batman, that's the Dark Knight trilogy. It's just nice to have that consistency. So at the end of the day, consistent or not, I'm just mostly glad that all this stuff exists on disc. Having this library is very important to me because I know the fleeting nature of streaming and digital content. So having this physical copy and this physical library just makes me happy. So even if all the Casshern releases were done by different studios, even if Bubblegum Crisis looks like a total mess and makes no sense, I'm at least happy to have them. And that's what really matters at the end of the day. It just, you know, I'd like a little effort put in to make it look kind of nice on a shelf. So that's all my thoughts there. So I hope you enjoyed this sort of two-part disc discussion. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment down below, and tell me if consistency in packaging even matters to you or not. For some, they may not even notice. For me, I notice all of it, unfortunately. But if you did enjoy the video, please hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, check out the video on consistency if you haven't, and stay tuned. I have a lot more content I'm rolling out in the future. Also be sure to check out Hero Club at hero-club.com for news and more, and my awesome graphic designer on Twitter at DarkClaw643. So until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.